Hey everybody, Tony D, and got to talk about the unlikelihood of civil war in the United States. Now, some people, some YouTubers have been picking up on it. I made my predictions. I just like to have. I just think it's fun to make predictions using my screenwriting abilities. But I don't actually believe there's going to be any kind of civil war, and here's why. First off, we went through this already, right? Um, this happened back in the 60s, it happened in the 70s, happened in the 90s, and what happened? Well, it looked like the end of the world. But it wasn't. Just wasn't. This time's a little different, but really it's kind of the same. Because this is people blowing off steam, I guess you'd say. Now, it was exacerbated by a lot of different factors. Antifa, the lockdown, it all exacerbated. But understand that the institutions that most of these protesters and rioters are trying to rally against, they're fine. They're absolutely fine. You can point to the Buffalo police for, leaving, or, other police departments like in New York quitting. Yeah, I mean, that's a factor. That's not good. But at the same time, they're big boys. They'll all those police in Buffalo, yeah, they resign. They'll just end up in some other district, some other state. They're not going to stop being cops. That's their job. That's their careers. These guys do change places where they want to live. And what's going to happen is the government's going to change, because as things get worse in the blue states, and as the optics continually crush these guys, they're just going to vote Republican. And Republicans will come in, and typically they maintain law and order, right? They tend to support, look at Christie. Yeah, he went after the teaching unions. He didn't go after those police unions. Oh, no, he was a prosecutor. He loved those guys. They're not going to go after them. The only thing that's going to happen is all these unions are going to turn around on a dime and say, F the Democrats. I don't want, we can't have schools if you burn down all the schools. You can't have a teachers union. We can't have a police union if you defund the police. F you guys. So either that, or the people in power, the Democrats, will turn on a dime and go, whoa, yeah, I didn't mean any of that. I was just saying things. I just said defund the police because, it was a scary crowd. That's really not going to fly this time. The Democrats have doubled down on this. You look at Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis. He finally sort of came to his senses, and when they said, will you defund the police? And he was like, well, no, we're going to reform the police. Oh, they booed him, and then they said, shame, shame, shame. You got to see the video. Looks like something out of Game of Thrones. Shame. That's where the left is now. Shame, we judge everybody. Shame. So no, there's not going to be a civil war. Tim Pool, he lives in New Jersey with me, right? Not with me, but in the same state. So I guess he's kind of seeing a lot of dark stuff too. And I get it, New York, whew, terrible. Philly, woof, terrible. But red states, they're back to normal. Mostly, a lot of them. Do they have riots? Yeah, Texas did. But understand that Texas isn't really totally red. It has big cities, and they're becoming bluer and bluer because that has been the trend over the years. Yeah, Chicago's a mess. Chicago's always a mess. LA, California, it's practically part of the Soviet Union. But how's Idaho? Don't hear a peep. Montana, Arkansas, Florida. Florida's doing great. The economy bounced back pretty well, mostly because of these other red states opening up, going back to business, realizing, oh, the virus isn't that bad. And now we got bigger problems. So those states are going to start gobbling up all the money. And eventually, the blue states will say uncle. because the people who fund these Democratic politicians, they are millionaires too. And they're going to say, we're not doing business. And you got to open stuff up. Now, I think Phil Murphy has crushed small businesses on purpose, Mr. Goldman Sachs, because, he opens the anchor stores at the mall, but none of the little stores can open because they don't have outside entrances, which is apparently a relevant thing with the beer virus, according to him. I think that's just him helping out his corporate buddies. Vote for me, Phil Murphy. But, to the average person, it's a screw job, I think. I think the average person is looking at this, and understand, the average person, and intelligence in general, is another trait that's adaptive in human beings. And what I mean by that, it kind of develops, it kind of comes and goes, right? So, I don't know, if you were, let's wind back the clock to evolutionary periods in man, You've got sort of hominids running around. And you got two tribes, right? You got one tribe goes down into a lush valley. It's got fruit trees and clear streams with fish in them and little tiny animals you could just grab off the ground and roast over a fire. I mean, it's like literally paradise. Temperate weather. And tribe moves in there and has a great time. They just F and eat all day. Then you got tribe number two. Tribe number two set up shop on the other side of the mountain, and things didn't go so well. They got bad weather, all the fruit trees died, they had to really forage for food, they had to eat rougher food, they got attacked by wild animals. But what happens? Tribe number two, they kick up their game. They don't sit around in the grass eating fruit all day. They make weapons. They get organized. They get smart. And sure enough, they get smart enough to go, well, maybe the problem is this location. Let's scout a better location. Well, they scout and they find that valley. And what do you know? It's a bunch of fat idiots lounging around in the grass. So they roll in and say, we're going to set up shop here. And the fat idiots who aren't prepared for anything are like, whoa, 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 we live here. I mean, you can live here too. Nah, it's not enough fruit. Get out. And away they go. Or they're killed by the tribe number two. That's more aggressive and better prepared. They take their women and they dry them out. Dry them out. Kill all the guys and goodbye, fat and lazy tribe. They're done. That's kind of the way humans evolve and do things, right? So yeah. There's a lot of fat and lazy, stupid people. It's lazy and horrible to loot and riot. That is a short-term, dumb solution to your problems. But quickly, people will have to get smarter. Because now you don't have a place to go food shopping or buy clothes or buy anything because the stores are going to be closed. So now what do, dummies? Oh yeah. We got to start thinking about why we did this and what's going to happen now. Suddenly, people start to think. And when they start thinking, they realize, ooh, we've made a big mistake here. Now we got to rebuild things. Now, the Chicago mayor is begging Walmart to come back. And Walmart's already making noise. Well, we'll come back in a few places. We're not coming back in certain places. What did you expect, Mayor? What did you expect? You let people burn down half your city. They're not going to come back to those places. This is what happened in Camden back in the 60s and 70s. It's only in recent history that Camden really got the stores they needed. It's only since, I'll say like the 90s, maybe the 2000s, that Camden really got some nice stores. Real stores like CVS. A decent sized store that you could buy food. And granted, CVS is not a supermarket, but they got supermarkets too now. For many years, nobody would open a supermarket in Camden. What are you, nuts? Too much crime, too many riots. They wouldn't open. And they created food deserts. And there was articles about people who would have to get on the train or the bus and travel an hour out of their way just to go to a place that sold food. That's what these places have turned into. The places that you've looted. You're not going to have food anymore. Simple as that. Now, New York, so densely populated. Yeah, you will have food again, but you're not going to have certain places in certain neighborhoods. Certain neighborhoods are done. Those nice restaurants, done. Without those nice restaurants, what are people going to go to? Well, theaters, they're closed. Movie theaters are closed. Restaurants, what happened to nightlife? Bars? All these places are closed. Well, actually, the mafia's got a whole bunch of secret ones, I'm sure. But for the most part, people got nothing to do. No reason to spend their money. No place to spend their money. No jobs. So the poor get poorer. All the poor did, if you can count on them, the poor. I think there's a lot of rich college students who came in from out of town to cause trouble. And they're going back to the suburbs. Oh, they'll have supermarkets, rioters, and looters. They rioted and looted and went back home. That's the fun in the city, right? Go in, riot, and loot, and then go back home to your cushy suburb. That's why you're not going to see these guys go into the suburbs. Oh, they made noise about it. Yeah, we're going to the suburbs next. No, you're not, because you live there. Poor people aren't coming to the suburbs. They won't get 10 feet in the suburbs before the cops stop them. Do you understand how the cops work in the suburbs? That's all they do. Sketchy guys get off a train from the city and start walking around, skulking around the suburbs. Oh, they'll be pulled over and sent their merry way very quickly. So, you've accomplished nothing except destroy businesses, livelihoods, lives, and you're not going to get any justice through that. Yeah, there might be some reform. Do you not understand how politicians work, dummies? They just tell you they reform things, or they put up nice sounding bills like the police reform bill of 2020. Oh, well, that sounds great. Let's pass that. Doesn't really have anything in it that changes anything. Or how about the act to stop police violence in our cities? Sounds good, right? Nothing in the act. It's all optics. It's all politics. You decided to use violence to make political headway. You haven't made any. How could you? They don't actually change policy. Mayor Frey got booed by a crowd of people, and he still supports the police. Well, it shows you he didn't have any ideas. You think he has any ideas to reform the police? No. He's a man of optics. Our Governor Phil Murphy, a man of optics. Now, some guys are good at optics and some are bad. Cuomo, de Blasio. De Blasio is just terrible at optics. Absolutely terrible. But he sort of doubled down with the rioters, and his daughter's a protester, sorry. So what else is he going to do? Sure, let's let the protesters go. Maybe then they'll vote for me. No. The protesters are young, and they don't vote. They didn't vote for Bernie. They're not going to vote for you. By the time the election rolls around, all this stuff will be gone. The riots will be over. And, people don't watch the news. The people who rioted, the young people who are in this protest, they don't watch news. They don't watch CNN. No one's watching CNN. Well, maybe like a little less than 1 million people. MSNBC, same thing. They catch clips on the internet out of context for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds. And that's it. And they're basically just scrolling the internet for things that validate their opinion. They don't actually look and analyze and think of things. This isn't the New York Times when you get something off your phone. Oh, and the New York Times, well, they're full bunch of communists now. Those guys are full blown red, and they're trying to push things for their agenda. But all they're really doing is killing the New York Times. I mean, even the people who are moderate are done reading the New York Times. The people who read the New York Times, well, the people who write the New York Times are writing for an audience that doesn't read the New York Times. They read the headlines, they skim the internet, that's about it. You can't make any money doing that. Well, I guess you can make money on clicks, but can you make enough? I guess you can keep pandering and pandering and pandering to people who want your sensational headlines like, we have to defund the police. But eventually they're going to figure out there's more money in the other side of the fence. When they realize that it's only a tiny fraction of the population who are hardcore leftist extremists, and the rest of the population has way more money than them, oh, goodbye. Goodbye. All those, communist thinkers up in the New York Times, they'll all be looking for work. Just won't need them anymore. Oh, and they'll easily fire them. Easily. Because they'll find people who are willing to say whatever they can to get into the New York Times. They'll find people who are just as ruthless as them, only they're not tarred with the stain of communism or some, rioting supporting tweet or whatever. These are the next generation. They're coming in, and they're going to wipe these guys out. There's no money in the left. Corporations are going to figure that out. And after they've squeezed every last dime they can out of you, they'll move on. And you'll just be left with a dead trend. So no, there's not going to be a civil war.